You ever get that feeling that you have so many inscriptions for an armament slot, you have no idea what to use and no idea if your stats make one better than the other? Well, this is a video that's going to talk all about that, because we've all been there, guys. I've been there, okay? And we're going to talk about the Wedge armament formation, okay? And we're going to give you the inscription guide and tier list of what to do, what to prioritize, and talk about how things change, because if you're running skill damage commanders like Huo, Ragnar, or Zuge, and then you're running Chin, things are completely different. So let's go through it all. Let's do it together. Let's get on the same page, and we'll help you out by giving you the best value and make the tier list to show you what's most important right now. Hey everybody, I'm your boy War Daddy Chansky. I shortened up the intro there a little bit, and I do these types of videos all the time. Guides and different things, nuances in the game. And if you enjoy these types of videos, give them a thumbs up, give them a like. If you haven't subscribed, consider doing so, guys. It doesn't cost you anything. It really helps out the channel. We are growing it like crazy. And then, of course, hit that bell for any notifications you might want when I put out this type of video. Well, I get caught all the time. I have so many armaments and so many inscriptions, it's out of control, okay? So we're gonna go through each one as far as what the level of importance is with the inscriptions, what they do, because it's a little bit different. For the most part, your commanders like Huo and Ragnar and Zuge are pretty much the same, right? They're all skill damage commanders and they work pretty much the same, right? Chin is completely different. That's why we'll make some adjustments and we'll do some different things to look at how Chin might work or what inscriptions you might want to stay away from. But Huo Ragnar, I said this a couple of months ago, and I really started promoting it from the standpoint of going to 2 pincers marches and going to 2 delta marches is the way, right? Because Huo and Ragnar are just not performing like they used to. We talked about this a couple of months ago. Everybody's realizing that now, and people are going away from the skill damage commanders for cavalry and infantry. But a lot of people still running them. So this is very relevant to them. Now, like player like me, I run 2 archer marches. So I'm going to obviously run Chin, right? And then I'm going to run Zuge. So, okay, what am I doing for Zuge? What's the best stuff to run? All right. And so from that standpoint, let's come in here. The first thing, we're going to break this thing down by each slot, if you will. Okay. And how we did this is I'm going to have information in the description about Davor's tool. This is Davor's inscription tool. It's really, really effective and really, really good. Like anything Davor's does, it is wonderful. You come in here to the interface, you can pick which marches and you can pick which slot, and it gives you a tier list. Now, I use this as a reference, right? I use this to kind of look at and figure out, what do I want to do? What are my recommendations? What do I run? I don't have the exact same one he does because I put different value on different things sometimes. But for the most part, it's all pretty simple and it's all pretty good. But he's got a lot of variations depending on commanders, and I really just have 2 variations. Basically, keeping it simple. I believe in the KISS method. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that, but think about this. KISS, it's called KISS, okay? You know what that stands for? Keep it simple, stupid. Keep it simple, stupid. And basically, I want to keep all this stuff very, very simple and plain and go through it all, making sure everybody kind of has a catch-all for, hey, this is what you do. Okay, so the first slot is the scroll slot. We know this slot. This is the KVK slot, okay? You get the special inscriptions of Hunter for the Wedge formation from the KVK shop. You win an autarch, you get a testimony, you spend a conquest coin, and you can get Hunter. Hunter is fantastic. 5% boost to skill damage. Awesome. That's great. And then also, if he's a single target damage commander like Huo, it's really good because you're going to increase that direct damage single target by 10%. However, if you do AoE like all the other commanders, then you only increase that damage by 2%, but you're also doing it to more targets. So that's how the Hunter works out. It's a great inscription. It really is. And so when you're thinking about that, how do we compare it to the others? What do we do? Well, here's the tier list, and we'll kind of go through all this stuff. I'm going to just hit you with it. I'm not going to move these things around, but you got Hunter at the very top, okay? Hunter is fantastic. It's always going to be S plus tier. It's really, really good for that inscription slot. All right. Then you've got Furious. Okay. For anybody that doesn't know, Furious is like a mini hunter. It's crazy. It's whenever your troops use an active skill, you get an 8% bonus to all types of skill damage dealt and a 3% bonus to counterattack damage dealt for 3 seconds. It's really, really good. Fantastic. If you can get a Furious with a hunter double, it is wild. It's like one of the best double inscriptions you could ever get. And then we've got Crazed, okay? Crazed is a rage situation. Now, you guys know me, I'm addicted to rage, right? You're going to do 35 more rage anytime you deal direct damage, anytime you deal skill damage. There's a cool 2-second cooldown, which means you can't get it twice in one cycle. All right, so you lose a little bit of value with that, but for the most part, it's really, really good. And I know it looks a little bit bad because it's behind Furious, but they're both S rated. It's really, really good, okay? And then from there, we've got Enraged, and then we've got Swift. And real quick on Enrage, we'll talk about that just real quick for a second. Enrage does 2.5 more skill damage, 2.5% more skill damage, and you do 1% more counterattack damage of all types. That's just, it's a flat deal that it gives you. Well, skill damage is everything. So anything that enhances skill damage is going to be rated pretty high. And so that is at the A tier list, okay? From here, I would probably, if this is for a Huo March, I would probably rank Swift way down here because he doesn't need the March speed. Swift is a March speed situation. If you come into the Codex here, you can see where Swift is. It's just a straight 2.5% March speed, all right? So when you see that on the list, and if you're talking about Huo or any kind of Nevsky, Joan, or any kind of cavalry, they don't need this. However, Ragnar and Chen, gotta have it. Absolutely gotta have it, okay? I'll get to the Chen setup here in just a second, okay? But first, let's go through the rest of this. We've got Ward, okay? What does Ward do? Whenever you use an active skill, you take 5% less damage for 3 seconds. So it's an all damage mitigation, okay? And then I get into the stats. I'm always gonna have Robust and Well-Clad and Warcry in that order. However, with Chen, it changes things a little bit, okay? Then you come down to the B category. I got Hurried, okay? Hurried is a 15% bonus to March speed 10 seconds after leaving battle. One could argue you could put Hurried up here, but I'm just gonna set it down right here. And it is really, really good, but you got to leave battle to get that thing to trigger. Then we've got Breaker, okay? Breaker, for anybody that doesn't know, Breaker is kind of like a mini Moore's Web, right? You have a 10% chance to reduce the target's defense by 15% for 3 seconds. It's really, really good, okay? And I've always really liked Breaker. I like it for rallies and garrisons, but in the field, it still has good viability and good service. So we've got Breaker up there, and we've also got Calm, Bellicose, and Valiant, okay? These are all like good solid inscriptions when you come in here and look at it. Bellicose we'll talk about, does a 5% bonus to damage dealt, and you have a 10% proc to do that. It's a cooldown of 5 seconds. There's Calm. Whenever the troop uses an active skill, there's a 30% chance to gain a 10% bonus to attack, okay? And so from there, it works out okay. So that kind of gives you that B tier with Valiant, and then we've also got the C tier. Now, these things aren't really that great. They're not really that good. Retaliation is basically 2.5% more counterattack. The C tier provides something, but it's not like super, super good, okay? And then the D tier is do not use, all right? So for Iron Wall, that is 1.5% less normal damage of all types. That's getting more and more value as you go along because there's more smite and combo out there, but it's not phenomenal. So we're gonna put it in the C tier category. You've also got Tremors in there. That's a 30% chance to deal extra damage of a damage factor of 100, okay? And so that's really not that much, but it's something. And then you got Phalanx that'll help you give a shield. You got a 30% chance to gain a shield with a damage factor of 100. There's not a whole lot of shielding synergies when it comes to some of these different commanders that do skill damage, and so that's not much. Then you've got Onslaught. Onslaught is 1.5% more normal damage. Now, the reason why Onslaught has always been really, really high, much higher on the pincer and delta formations, is because that's what you're enhancing. Your normal damage will enhance your your normal damage will enhance your combo and smite damage that you do. It does not enhance skill damage. Okay, so this is basically just a little bit more white numbers on your counterattack and attack and all that stuff. And so there it is when it comes to onslaught. All right, then you've got pulverize, loosed, and payback. Okay, do not use these. Pulverize is one of my favorites when it comes to arch, pincer, or delta. Pulverize is fantastic. It gives you a proc to do 20% more normal damage, but it's just for 1 second. Well, for a skill damage march, that doesn't really do much of anything. You're not really going to get much benefit from that. And so I don't advise pulverize, just don't use it. The other stuff obviously is the barbarian stuff with payback, and then loosed gives you basically 1% more normal damage of all types because it's a V formation situation. Okay, that's the setup for the skill damage commanders. Okay, from there, here's what happens with Chin. First of all, Chin, we're going to pull all the way down here. Crazed, we don't need any more rage with Chin. We're good on rage. We're totally fine on that. And on Chin, I'm going to move hurried up. Okay, and I know this sounds crazy, but attack is like everything with Chin. So I'm going to put attack right up here. I'm going to put hurried right here. And then I'm going to have robust and then defense. Okay, with my well-clad, move ward back here. Okay, and so from there, the only other thing I would mess with a little bit when it comes to this, oh man, I guess we could kind of do it, but you know, Bellicose does give more damage, and then you've got Breaker that mitigates some things, but I think this is how I would just go with it when it comes to Chin. You've got Hunter and Furious. You put Crazed way down here, so that is your Chin setup when it comes to the scroll slot, okay? So now we're gonna go on to the instrument slot, one of my favorite slots. I absolutely love it. Let's pull this thing up. Here's your instrument guide, okay? And now the different part of this is that when it comes to Chin, it's not that much different, right? Chin doesn't have that much difference when it comes to this. And so from there, unstoppable, really, really good. Let's talk about this slot and let's talk about what it is and how it affects you. You have the instrument and you have the emblem. These two things here, okay? They're always in the top right and the top left corner of any formation, okay? These are the two slots you stick to pity with. All right, you can't get these slots with special inscriptions with anything. You can't get it like this with the KVK shop or with the courier shop. You have to get these on your pity, or you have to get lucky, okay? And so from there, they are really, really good. Typically really good setup. So here is Unstoppable. It's great. It's a 5% boost to skill damage dealt, and when dealing direct damage, there's a 30% chance the damage will increase by 10%, which is really good. And you can get that 10% anytime damage is done, okay? So you just want that bonus, and it works out really good. You can fire that off every skill cycle, so it works out pretty well. And so from there, that's one of the things that's really good and ranked really, really high. That's why we have it up so high. Then we've got Boiling Blood, okay? Boiling Blood, I've always loved. 2% boost to skill damage. Whenever the yielder's troops deals direct damage to the current target, there's a 30% chance to reduce all incoming skill damage by 5% for the next 3 seconds, okay? Now, this is kind of interesting because this is losing a little bit of value. Now, I'm going to keep it S tier here, but there's just not near as many skill damage commanders out there that are doing skill damage in the field. So maybe you don't quite need this, but I'm not ready to put it down here yet, okay? Now, from there, we're going to go with Devious. That just gives 2.5% skill damage, a lot like Enraged did. Then we've got Spirited. Spirited is really, really good for skill damage commanders, okay? There's all kinds of different ways to fire off, especially for Chin. It works out really, really good. If we were running like a Zuge Hermanen, we would probably put Spirited down here. In fact, let's just do that. Let's go ahead and put Spirited down in the B category because we're going to set this thing up for Huo, Ragnar, and Zuge, and then we'll get to the Chin stuff later, okay? And so from there, I'm gonna put Fit right here, and then for especially Ragnar and Zuge, Fine Horse and Primed, these are March speed situations. You want to rank those high. If it was just for Huo, you'd probably put those things down here. It's not a big deal for cavalry, already so fast. But then you've got Fit that does your health, you've got armor that does your defense, and then you've got brutal. Okay, those are all really good situations. All right, you come down to the B category, you got respite, you've got guarded, you've got fearsome, and then you've got, obviously we talked about spirited. Okay, I'll get into some of those just a little bit, but let's talk about respite first. Okay, anytime you are hit with a basic attack, you have a 10% chance to take 10% less damage for 2 seconds, cooldown of 5 seconds. This is great, okay? This is great if you get swarmed or if you ever get hit or something like that, it works out really, really well. Then we've got guarded, okay? Guarded is really, really good because you're gonna reduce the damage that you're taking of any kind of skill damage. You got a 10% chance to reduce that damage by 20%, okay? That's wonderful. You're taking skill damage all the time in the field and it works out really, really well. You pull this up, we've also got, let me see, fearsome and spirited, like we talk about. Okay, fearsome is pretty good. Okay, it's not like broken off the charts, but it does give us an extra 1% of extra damage. That's always pretty good. Okay, we die for all damage on our stats, and that's what it does. Spirited, this is something, I have a video on this. I've had it out for a year. It does not work with your active skill. Okay, you do 5% extra damage when your rage is over 70%. That does not carry over into your active skill. When you fire your active skill, your rage is technically 0%. It is not over, it's not 100%. And so from there, spirited gets knocked just a little bit, but will that work on Chin? It might. And then we've got our C category, which is just like kind of okay. It does provide some value with evasive and requital. Okay, and so from there, what people have to understand is that requital, real quick, does a little bit of damage to 3 targets. Okay, or I'm sorry, does additional damage to 1 target for 2 seconds at a damage factor of 50. It's one of those little extra damage situations with red numbers. It's not necessarily great, okay? Evasive gives you 2.5% more, or takes 2.5% less counterattack damage, so you don't take as much counterattack damage. It's okay. War Hunger that you see here, you deal 1.5% more normal damage of all types. Not great because we're doing skill damage, and you've got alert. That's counterattack. Then you've got vengeful. Vengeful kind of looks okay because you do extra rage. Let me show you kind of what vengeful looks like here, okay? Vengeful basically means you do 2 extra rage for every 10% of units you lose, your HP bar. All right, and it's up to 10 rage, and you get that every second. But that's not a big deal, y'all. It's just really not. By the time you run down to half health, okay, you're getting hit, you're raging up so much anyways, you don't have to worry about this. And so vengeful, not necessarily very high, but it does have just a little bit. Then you got bluster and embattled. Bluster, the same type of situation where you're going to do 3 enemy targets at a damage factor of 100. I'd probably, honestly, put bluster and requital. I'd run it kind of like that. Bluster does more damage because it's an AoE than requital does. And then you've also got embattled, okay? And then when you come to embattled, this is what you get. All right, when you hold on, let me pull this up. When you come to embattled, you've got any kind of skill damage you take, you have a 10% chance to gain 50 raise. Okay, that doesn't happen very often, but at the same time, it's okay. It's not crazy, and it does provide a little bit of value. Davor didn't have this very highly ranked. I don't have it very highly ranked, and that's what it is. Patronage, basically you get healing or a shield. There's not many commanders in the skill damage genre, if you will, that gives you healing or a shield, but you'll do 2% extra damage for 3 seconds. That's more for garrisons. That's more for Tokugawa and Hera and some of those commanders that do a whole bunch of shielding, okay? And then you got Annexer, it's Barb, and then you got uplifting. Now, everybody knows I love uplifting. Everybody knows. I love it. It is one of the best for your pincer or your delta or your arch. It's best for combo damage. It's best for smite damage, and it's best for white numbers, okay? Great for rallying garrisons because you have to stay in combat for a while, but for skill damage commanders, not good. Just stay away from them. Takes too long to ramp up. Plus, you're not really enhancing any of your skill damage. So that is what it is. Now, the point here on this, if you compare it to Chen, okay, with Chen, you're probably going to put brutal up. So first of all, everybody take a nice picture of that. That's just your regular tier list. With Chen, you're going to put brutal up here. Okay, actually does pretty well. Spirited's going to come up here and actually go up here because Chen is doing damage every second. So Spirited really kind of helps. Basically 30% of the time, you got 5% more all damage when it comes to Chen laying down the red numbers. And that is like your Chen setup. You're good with that. Okay, so that's for the scroll. That works out really, really well. Okay, so let's go to the next one. The next one is the Emblem. All right, and when it comes to the Emblem, that's my favorite slot. And let me pull this up here. Here's the Emblem. This is the Intrepid slot, probably one of the most valued special inscriptions in the game. It's the Emblem slot. You work it off your pity. This is what we're looking at for emblems, okay? That's got to be a pity situation. But Intrepid, just straight 10% boost to skill damage dealt. This on Chen is one of the best investments you can make, okay? Especially when it comes to Chen. Super high, but you can put it on any skill damage commander and you get massive return. 10% boost to skill damage while all your skill damage commanders are putting out skill damage bonuses with their skills and all that. It's phenomenal. Focus Fire, a little bit different version, but a 4% boost in skill damage dealt is fantastic. Fantastic. That's why we rank these things really, really high. But then kind of like Furious, we got a little bit of a situation going on with Artisan. All right, Artisan's just really, really different. It's different from Devious and it's different from Enraged and things like that. It gives an extra 0.5%, so you get 3% more skill damage of all types and 1.5% more counterattack damage. Okay, so you put this at a high situation because it is really, really good. So you have Artisan sitting with Focus Fire at the S slot. From there, you've got Daring. Daring obviously is 2.5% more skill damage. Then you've got Deflector. Deflector's a really good mitigation. It's 3% less skill damage. Deflector would probably be rated higher. It'd probably be up here if this was 2-3 years ago before Combo and Smite came out, because everybody did skill damage back then, and now it's losing a little bit of value. Now for the Ragnar and the Zuge marches, I've got haste way up here. Then with Hardy, Hardy's got the health, Shielded's got defense, Infamy has attack, and again, I got the haste because I want the march speed. If it was Huo, probably have haste down here, but we'll leave it up here for now. Then you've got Rapacious, Watchmen, and Guardians, okay? Let's go in there and look at what these things are. When it comes to Rapacious, it's 1.5, you deal 1.5% extra damage. That's fantastic. It's almost as good as Assertive, okay? Then you've got Watchmen, that does, you take 1.5% less damage. It's much better for your mitigation. And then you got Guardians, 2% less normal damage, okay? That you're gonna take that's from Smite and from Combo. And the more Smite and Combo we have out here, the better we're doing with Guardians, okay? And so from there, we've also got Elite and Evasive. You guys know what these are. Elite is pretty simple. You do 1% extra damage, and then Evasive, pretty simple. You take 1% less damage. Okay, so damage increase, damage mitigation. That's how those work. Then you got your C category that's got Enduring. Of course, Enduring is the kickback skill, if you will. It's 3% more counterattack damage of all types. It's got a little bit of value, but nothing crazy. Then you've got Counterer. Counterer is where you take less counterattack damage, so not great for the field. It's good for rallying garrisons, but not really good for the field, and it's got a little bit of value, but not much. Then you have Smite, 2% more normal damage. This would be ranked very, very high in Pincer or Delta, but in skill damage, doesn't matter. You don't get much of that. Militant's right behind it at 1.5% more normal damage. And then you've got Resistant, which gives you 2.5% more counterattack damage. Not huge, not great, okay? Then you got Pacifier and Line Shot. Line Shot's a V formation. You get a little bit of, I think, damage mitigation, but that's it. That's it. You don't have anything else, and so just don't use those at all for your wedge marches. So this rounds it out. And if I was running this for Chen, okay, here's basically how I would do this. I would basically put Infamy up here behind Daring, and that's probably about it. Okay, so pretty much the same when it comes to Chen versus Zuge, Huo, and Ragnar. Okay, so this is like your Chen setup right now. So let's move that back down here, and then we'll get on to our last slot. Okay, this is the Courier Shop slot. All right, a lot of people are trying to figure out exactly how you get more prints in the courier shop, this is the flag slot. All right, now we have balanced in here, and this is where this one comes from as we talk about this. When you recycle your armaments, okay, you got a chance to come in here and recycle them. You get an inscription shard chest, which can have different inscriptions. These are just normal common inscriptions you can put and apply to armaments, but you also get these shards, okay? So you get like eight shards, and you can pick out one of these special inscriptions for these flag slot. Okay, so we talk about balance. That's what you get with the courier shop when it comes to the special inscription. Okay, so coming back to this, let me get my Zuge here. We're talking about the balanced. All right, balanced is really good because it's got a lot of normal damage resistance. That's giving it more value because you have so much smite and so much combo that's hitting you now. So you want to resist normal damage. Okay, then when you reach 80% rage, their troops you're going to deal 8% more skill damage for the next 3 seconds. So this is a cooldown of 5 seconds. So more than likely this fires off every active skill, and when it does, then your primary commander is going to fire off that active skill, and then sometimes, it doesn't happen very often, but sometimes that 8% more skill damage can creep into the secondary commander. So balanced, really, really good. For Chin, not good. We'll go over that in a second. Then you've got Brawler and Assertive, okay? We love Brawler and Assertive for the wedge slots because Brawler is basically going to give you more skill damage, and then Assertive is obviously going to give you more all damage. Brawler, just like in Rage, just like Devious, 2.5% more skill damage, but then Assertive, 2% more all damage. I love Assertive. I absolutely love Assertive. I love it so much. In fact, I'm going to move that and put that right here. I'd rather just have 2% all damage than 2.5% more skill damage. Then you've got Strategic and Cohesive, okay? Strategic and Cohesive are pretty good. Cohesive, you're going to do 2% extra damage to surrounded troops. Well, you're in the field, you're hitting targets, you're running multiple marches. The target you're hitting is always going to be surrounded. So that's a lot like Assertive in the field. Then you have Cohesive. You're going to do 2% extra damage when you have over 50% units remaining. Well, the overwhelming majority of time you have over 50% units remaining, because if you're refreshing your marches, you're going to refresh when you're at like 20, 30, 40% health, okay, or HP. And so the majority of the time you have the extra all damage, and that's why we put those guys at the S tier. Really, really good. Then from there, you've got Vitality, Spiked, and Metallics. I'll put Metallics here. That's defense, health, and attack. Then I've got Wary, that is march speed. I'm going to keep Wary pretty high because we're talking about Ragnar, we're talking about Zuge, we're talking about those types of commanders. Now for Huo, just like we said, we're going to push this thing way down here. Then you'll notice Defiant is down here in the A category. I'm going to keep Galloping here. That's another march speed one, but let's go look at Defiant, okay, because it's not all that great. All right, Defiant really lost some of its benefit. It is just a normal damage resistant of 3%. It's gaining more value because you're getting more smite and combo commanders. And one can make an argument that you could take Valiant and you could put it up to the A category, but I just leave it at B. Okay, 3% more normal damage resistance. Okay, the resistance doesn't do much because that's a boost, if you will, to the normal damage reduction that commanders might have in their skill. So basically 3% less normal damage. Okay, that's fine, but I'm just going to leave it right here. Not near as value. I'd rather have Assertive, I'd rather have Brawler and Strategic than Defiant. Okay, not necessarily all that great. Let's talk about Eclipsed, Warflames, and Brave. Now I like Brave. I've always liked Brave, but let me go into Eclipsed real quick. And let's take a look at this. You're going to do 2.5% more skill damage. Great. Awesome. Really, really good. And you will not regret having that in there. We've also got Warflames, okay? Warflames is just a straight 1% extra damage. Really, really good. And it works out pretty well. Then I moved Brave up to that B category because this is anytime you're being surrounded, you're going to kick back 5% more counterattack damage of all types. Okay, that's something. That's a little bit of kickback damage that gives you something. It's worth a B category. That's where I put it. And then we've got Desperado. This is our C category. Desperado, Pursuer, Siege Work, Striker, and Rebuff. Okay, Desperado, I'm not a huge fan of. You get a little bit of damage mitigation when you get your troops really, really low. Then you've got Pursuer. And as we look at this, Pursuer is kind of okay, but nothing crazy. Let me come over here and take a look with you guys on Pursuer. That is 2% extra damage to troops with under 20% units remaining. Well, that doesn't happen very often, and it's okay, but it's not amazing, and that's kind of where Pursuer is. You've got Siege Work and Striker and Rebuff, okay? Siege Work, really pretty simple. Damage to attack when you're attacking cities or strongholds. So with that being said, let's make sure we don't put this in the C category. That's going to come down here to the D category. Do not use. But then we've got Striker and Rebuff, okay? These are different situations that you can run. Let me see. Rebuff, a little bit of counterattack damage, okay? And then Striker, I can't remember what Striker does. Okay, yeah, that's right. 1.5% more or normal damage of all types. Not a big deal. And then you've got the list down there at the bottom. Stay away from those. That's ballistics. That has to do with some of the things that you've got. Let me see here. We'll go over here and look at ballistics. V formation, 1.5% more counterattack. Just stay away from it. Then you got Siege Work and Sentries that have to do with rallying garrison. And then you got Cleanser for your barbs. So that's your setup. You take that, and that's how you want to run this. Now, if it's for Chin, you can literally put spiked all the way up here, or even spiked right up here as far as how this thing breaks down. Okay, wait a minute. The one last thing I wanted to say about this when we were talking about putting this up for Chin, let me give you the Chin version, okay? This will work out pretty good. Balanced is coming all the way down here, okay? It does not work for Chin. We've talked about this many, many times, all right? Balanced is a situation where you have to have over 80% rage, okay? Well, Chin consumes rage, and we have worked this. We've tried. We've put horns on him. We've run the full-on, we've run the full-on rage setup with him with Feral Nature. We cannot get that thing to fire off, okay? So balance, not necessarily great for him. I've got it on him right here, but I would much rather run this in the field and run this in Canyon. It does better for me. So you just want to stay away from balance when it comes to Chin. There's a little bit of value there, so I think my final tally, I'm going to put balance probably here at the B category, okay, because there's a little bit of normal damage resistance that you get. But as far as Chin goes, the flag slot for the special inscription, rare inscription, it's kind of a no-go, daddy-o. And then this is your Huo, Zuge, and Ragnar setup. Not a whole lot of changes between the two. And with that, that concludes everything that we've got when it comes to this tier list. Now, Wedge is still popular. Okay, and it's still going. Now they're telling us the next skill damage formation that's going to come out is going to be like March, maybe. So we don't know, guys. And so everybody's still running Wedge, whether you're running Huo, whether you're running Ragnar, whether you're running Zuge. Let's see, we've got our boy Ragnar here, we've got Zuge. These are three commanders that are falling off pretty good. Okay, we need some help, and maybe with the next Archer commanders, we're gonna get some of that help, but everybody's running Chin. Everybody is, and everybody's using Wedge for Chin right now. So if you enjoyed this video, again, throw a thumbs up on it, give it a like. I'm just like you guys. We're all in that same boat. I've got a ton of inscriptions. What am I even using these things for? Holy geez, look at all these things. They're everywhere. They're absolutely everywhere. Okay, and so from there, if you enjoyed this video, throw a thumbs up on it, give it a like. Also, if you want to get that alerts when I do these types of content, hit that bell and we'll be good to give you those alerts whenever I do this. So with all that, we hope you have a great day, broskies.